Welcome to the next decade, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, it's 2020. I don't know about you, but every time we have one of these shifts, it makes me feel a little bit old. In fact, this year, I'm gonna be 30. Ugh. Speaking of old, those baby boomers, they're really messing up our real estate market. And today, I'm gonna show you how. According to CMHC, rich boomers are planning on keeping us millennials out of the... Oh, wait. Before we go there, or as the social media world would say, okay, boomer. We'll get back to grandma in just a second. While I'm on the point, you guys, I asked you on Instagram if I should be on TikTok just for fun a couple weeks ago, and you guys said yes. So I've been playing around, just having some fun, and I actually have a video that has over 300,000 views and counting, and it looks a little bit like this. If you want to be in the loop and have some fun on TikTok, and we're talking to the younger people because we all know if you're over 30, you don't use TikTok, unless you're going to be me. If you want to follow us on Watson Estates, or if you want to just subscribe to YouTube because, you know, these social media platforms are just better, do that too. Back to grandma. Baby boomers are going to put a ton of pressure on our real estate market. In fact, they're already doing it. Check this out. According to StatsCan, baby boomers were officially born between 1946 to 1965, and that makes them between the ages of 55 and 74. According to the Ontario Ministry of Finance, between 2016 and 2026, the population of seniors as a percentage in Toronto is supposed to go up from 14% to 18%. As these baby boomers slowly enter retirement, the question is when are they going to downsize? Where are they going to go? And what we're finding is they're not doing that. They're not going. You just stay there. So for those of you that are turning 30 and want to have a home, you're going to find yourself in a little bit of a pickle. In fact, many of the baby boomers are deciding to work longer, to stay longer, and I don't blame them. They're nice homes. They don't want to move, but it's creating a huge backlog of inventory in the low-rise segment. According to CMHC, they said rising home ownership rates among seniors may continue, which will translate into less supply being freed up for younger generations. As of 2016, a quarter of all homes owned in Toronto were owned by the seniors over 65, and that's up actually 4.5% from 2006. Which takes me to peak millennials, and to understand what they're gonna do, you have to understand something called the housing life cycle. And the way it does this is it breaks down into three categories. The first one being phase one. Now phase one is when you're either in school or you're maybe just starting a professional career when you buy a property. And the plan is it doesn't need to be big, it needs to be in the downtown core or something like a condo. And this has been a lot of the trends that we've seen over the last few years. As you get a little bit older, you enter around the age of 30, actually the average age to have children now is 30, you enter phase two. And phase two is you want to maybe go into the suburbs, go a little bit bigger, get a home where you can grow into it. And then phase three, which is where the seniors would be the baby boomers entering a cycle of needing to downsize. And this is the typical cycle, if you will, of buying real estate. Now, I was talking a lot about peak millennials even since 2017. You can check a video out. I will tag it in here as well. And it essentially explains how the peak millennials are driving the real estate market. And they are the reason that transition into the condo market really took off in 2017. So it really is important to know what they're doing and if they get stuck or not. And a lot of the affordability challenges that are being faced by this huge group. Here we are today in 2020. I can't believe it's 2020. And children, the millennials that were born in the late 1980s are entering their 30s and they're entering phase two, and they need to have a platform where they can have and raise their kids. And you would think that these baby boomers between the ages of 55 and 74 would be downsizing, but that simply is not the case. And just as a side note, important to mention here, if the baby boomers did decide that they as a group wanted to downsize and they were looking in that low-rise segment, it would actually mean that both phase one, the people that are looking to buy that first property, and phase three would be both looking for things like condos. And if you anticipate the baby boomers to be downsizing in mass, that segment would do very, very well. But what we're seeing that's not necessarily the case. Baby boomers are actually staying put. I mentioned it 2 years ago, and the reality still is, I would argue baby boomers have won in every aspect of the real estate market over the last 50 years. So if we know baby boomers are steering the market, the question is where do they want to be? And a recent study in 2018 by Ryerson University found that boomers aren't expected to start downsizing in a meaningful way until at least 2040 or later. Yeah, it says 2040. That's ridiculous. And in fact, an Ipsos survey last year found that 50% said that they have no plans to downsize at all. It sounds like the baby boomers aren't going anywhere. Here are some of the major reasons that they've cited for not wanting to downsize at all. Number one, your house is paid off. That makes sense. Also, according to StatsCan, they're going to be living for another 2 decades even if they were 65 today. And many of them are actually deciding that they can live in their home because of things like reverse mortgages. Side note, don't get a reverse mortgage. But there are other platforms where you can finance your property and live off of it and not have to leave your home. Also, as at-home long-term care improves, many of them will have no reason to go anywhere. Plus, many seniors and many baby boomers are deciding that they want to work into older ages, meaning they need to be in a location where they can get to work, which is the same challenge of people that are entering their 30s. They're looking for the same type of housing. And check this stat out. According to the Canadian Centre for Economic Analysis, there are actually 5 million spare bedrooms across the country, many of which are actually owned by seniors 65 and over. And I think a big part of this is they're not going anywhere, so they're just going to have rooms. And perhaps this is one of the solutions we have to address some of the supply challenges we face if there was a way to get a handle on it. Now, if you watch any of our videos, we also talk about immigration. So combine this with the immigration, which we have the fastest immigration out of all the G7 countries. They actually forecast this same Ryerson survey that 70,000 homes with backyards are going to be needed. We're going to be in a deficit. And so we have a massive supply challenge. And unless something comes in to save us, things are going to get really tough really quickly. So we understand baby boomers, they don't want to move, they're just kind of planting their flag. And so what happens to the other generations? Well, Generation Z, that's those born in the late 1990s, will need to be the ones that will purchase these condos, these units that have been bought up by the peak millennials in order to help them move on. And as for the peak millennials, their game plan is going to need to be one of two things. Either you're going to face that challenge of house prices, of course, with the lack of supply. You're going to need to go further out and have a larger commute time. And some of them, a small portion of them, I think, in the big picture, are going to decide to raise kids, raise their family in something like a condo downtown and just decide altogether to not leave the city. Which brings me to the climax of this video. Prediction alert. You have to see out of these stats that the disproportional growth of condos we've seen in the last couple years are simply going to come to an end. There is going to be a large opportunity now coming into this low-rise segment, that's the detached, the semis, the towns, in the suburban communities that maybe wasn't there the last couple of years simply because of this pressure being placed. And I hope you guys are seeing the same trend. I'd love to get your feedback and your thoughts. Where are there opportunities for us to absolutely take over 2020 and kill it as far as our investments go? I'll see you guys next time. Hit the subscribe button. Take care and keep it real.